Welcome to this video on user research methods. In this episode, we'll explore the discovery phase. As the saying goes, if you ask a customer what they want, they'll tell you what they think you want to hear. We'll show you how to design research that cuts through that and gets to the truth. Why does this episode matter? You have your capstone idea, and now it's time to pressure test it with real evidence, not just your own assumptions. We'll cover method selection and question design, two areas where research often goes wrong. The goal is to surface the truth, not just comfort. In this video, we will cover 5 key areas: the differences between qualitative and quantitative research, how to conduct effective interviews, survey basics, usability and A/B testing, and finally, how to match your chosen method to the current stage of your capstone project. Before choosing a research method, you must understand the type of question you are trying to answer. Not every research question is the same, and a common mistake is treating them as if they are. At a glance, qualitative research asks why to explore motivations and experiences. It is best used before you have a clear hypothesis. Quantitative research, however, asks how many to measure behavior at scale. It is best used when you have a specific hypothesis to test. Qualitative and quantitative research are not competitors, they are complements. A typical workflow starts with qualitative discovery to understand the landscape, follows with forming a hypothesis, and ends with quantitative validation to measure at scale. Moving to Chapter 1, we focus on interviews. These are arguably the most powerful early-stage research tool. When done correctly, they allow you to hear users describe their world, surfacing mental models and problems you might not have considered. A core principle of interviewing is don't lead the witness. Avoid embedding the answer in your question, as this biases your data. Instead, create conditions where the participant can tell you something you didn't already believe. Another critical distinction is between past behavior and hypothetical future behavior. Hypothetical questions often lead to optimistic but inaccurate answers. Questions about actual past experiences provide reliable data because they are rooted in what people have already done. To structure a strong interview, follow a 4-part arc: a 5-minute warm-up, a 15 to 20-minute exploration of past behavior, 10 minutes probing for meaning, and a 5-minute wrap-up where you allow time for final, often vital insights. The real interview happens in the follow-ups. Simple prompts like, "Tell me more about that. What did you mean by that?" Or asking about the context before an event help you move deeper than your original questions might allow. In Chapter 2, we turn to surveys. They are excellent for measuring at scale, but they require careful design. A poorly designed survey can provide misleading data that feels authoritative. Regarding sample size, for early-stage discovery, 30 to 50 responses provide a helpful directional signal. For benchmarking or comparing groups, aim for 100 to 200. Statistical significance typically requires 385 or more responses for a 95% confidence level. When designing surveys, watch out for red flags. These include leading questions, double-barreled questions that ask 2 things at once, loaded assumptions, acquiescence bias, confusing order effects, or using undefined rating scales. Finally, remember that subtle changes in phrasing make a significant impact. By shifting from leading or double-barreled questions to neutral, single-focus questions, you ensure the data you collect is reliable and accurate. Let's discuss ordering bias. The sequence of your questions significantly impacts how participants interpret them. Known as a context effect, this is particularly potent in surveys where participants cannot ask for clarification. Moving on to Chapter 3, we differentiate between usability testing and A/B testing. These two behavioral methods are frequently confused or used interchangeably, despite answering fundamentally different questions. Usability testing focuses on revealing friction by observing users as they attempt to complete real tasks. The primary goal is to identify where an experience breaks down, not to compare different versions for preference. In contrast, A/B testing is designed to reveal preferences at scale. By splitting a live audience into two groups, you can measure which variant drives a better outcome, though it won't tell you the why behind the results. This table highlights the differences side by side. Usability testing is fast and small-scale for finding UX issues, while A/B testing is slower and needs large traffic to optimize a known flow. Neither method is a silver bullet. The best approach is to layer these methods. Use usability testing to fix friction, A/B testing to optimize, and interviews to explain the numbers behind your results. Chapter 4 addresses matching your method to your project stage. A common mistake is running advanced tests before you have validated that the problem you are solving is real. Think of this as a research ladder. Start with interviews for problem discovery, move to concept testing, then usability testing for prototypes, and only finally use surveys and A/B testing for live product optimization. Be honest about where your capstone is right now. If you are still in the early stages, your primary tools should be interviews, not surveys or A/B tests. Optimizing too early can lead you down the wrong path. Let's look at a live demo of rewriting a bad interview question. We often write questions that inadvertently lead our participants, so let's see how we can transform them to get better data. Here is an original question that is leading and hypothetical. By rewriting it to focus on past behavior without suggesting a solution, you move from getting a yes to hearing a valuable story. The same principle applies to surveys. This original question is loaded and double-barreled. Breaking it into two neutral parts provides clarity and prevents the participant from feeling forced into a specific answer. Use this before and after checklist for every question you write. Ask yourself, does it focus on past behavior? Is it open-ended? Uses neutral language? And is it focused on a single topic? Finally, avoid common pitfalls like confirmation bias, forgetting to define your screener criteria, or talking too much during interviews. These simple fixes can drastically improve the quality of your research findings. After the research comes the most important part, making sense of what you heard. Remember to capture evidence rather than conclusions. We will dive deeper into analysis in the next episode. Research ethics are essential, even for student projects. They ensure you gather honest and useful data by creating a safe, respectful environment for your participants. Always prioritize clarity and transparency when you interact with others. How many interviews do you need? Look for saturation, the point where you stop hearing new themes. Usually 5 to 8 discovery interviews, 3 to 5 concept tests, or 5 usability sessions are sufficient for most projects. Synthesizing your findings is a 3-step process. Capture raw data, cluster related themes, and interpret those clusters to create insight statements. Remember, the goal is to define user behavior, context, and underlying motivation. Effective recruiting is a key skill. Always define your target criteria first to avoid wasting time. Use your professional network strategically, but avoid friends and family for discovery. And remember, always over-recruit by 20% to account for no-shows. Remote interviews are practical for scheduling, while in-person sessions provide richer context and nonverbal cues. Remote is great for general interviews, but in-person is often better for usability testing and observing actual user environments. Choosing the right method is your most important decision tree. Whenever you form a research question, start by asking what kind of answer you need. Then select the method that aligns with that goal. In summary, there are 2 pillars for successful research: choosing the right method for your stage and crafting honest questions. Using the wrong tool or leading questions will only lead to biased, misleading data. Remember, qualitative research answers why, and quantitative answers how many. Always ask about past behavior instead of future hypotheticals. For now, focus on interviews, as they are the most effective tool for early-stage capstone projects. Before our next episode, start your groundwork. Draft a 5-question interview guide, define your participant criteria, identify potential interviewees, and conduct a practice session to refine your active listening and follow-up skills. Up next, in Module 2, Episode 4, we'll go hands-on. We will cover how to conduct interviews without them going sideways, how to process messy data into clear insights, and how to distinguish true signal from noise. This program was brought to you by the Series of Thoughts team.